Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 264 of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going very good, thanks. Good to be here.
Absolutely. And once again, today's show is going to be just myself and Gary. I know that Mr. Lugo has been having some internet issues. He will be back definitely in the future. As for everybody else, they're pretty busy because, we are starting the busy season of video game releases. So with that said, people will be back, but we got crazy schedules at the moment. We're still working through that. But yeah, Gary and I are definitely here to talk about some of the news from this week as well as some of our impressions, because I know we've been playing quite a bit of games. So to kick things off, Gary, how about you let everybody know what you've been playing?
Yep. So obviously number one is Overwatch. I've been playing Overwatch yet again. Also been playing World of Warcraft still, here and there. Not so much this week as before, but yeah, I've played some World of Warcraft. The reason I've had to cut down playing World of Warcraft is because I entered 2 new games into the rotation. So one of them is Senran Kagura Versus, which is a fighting game. Now I picked this up because I actually had this on PS2 before. I think last year I bought it on PS2 and I was playing it on there for a while, but now I have it on PC. And the reason I decided to pick it back up and stuff is because I saw JJ was playing one of the newer Senran Kagura games. So that made me want to revisit this one. And so I picked that back up, and it's a very fun game, man. I mean, I don't know how to describe it to people, because when people see it, they probably think it's like some crazy Japanese perverted kind of game, but it's got all that crazy Japanese over exaggerated physics and everything, but it's a fun game. It's a really fun beat 'em up kind of game, and you basically have to do different missions of beating up all the different characters and stuff like that. It's like an if side scrolling games were in 3D, this is what the game would be. I think it's something like this. It's just a fun beat 'em up, and you don't have to think too much to play. You just sit back, relax, enjoy yourself. And the game has amazing physics, I have to say, some of the best physics I've seen in a game. And those who have played it, I'm sure you understand. But yeah, Senran Kagura is, it's just a fun, silly game that you can play and enjoy for a couple hours or so. And besides that, I also got Dragon Quest 11, and I believe that game came out this Tuesday. So yeah, I bought that, and I didn't actually get to play it until today because I've been so busy, and because this is an epic JRPG, I knew that I would have to set aside a few hours specifically just to get into it, because when you get into a new JRPG, those first few hours are really important, because that's when you learn and understand the game and the flow of the game and how it works, how the battle system works and everything. Thankfully, this one, it hasn't been too overwhelming with the tutorials and throwing information at you, because a lot of the games are like that. But this one is it just lets you kind of play, and you just gradually begin to understand and learn the game just through playing it. And it seems pretty simple for where I'm at. It's not overly complicated or anything. I'm sure, because in these types of JRPGs, they introduce a lot of new features later on in the game. So I'm expecting there's probably going to be a lot of new features, a lot of new things to learn that come down the road. But yeah, I've played the first 2 hours, and based on that, it seems like I'm in for something, pretty epic. And I've heard great things about the game already from people who have reviewed it. I know Tatiana at the Koalition is working on a review, but she does have impressions on it on the site right now, so go check that out. But yeah, people have been telling me it's a really good game, and that, you know, because I love JRPGs, I'm gonna really love this game. So I have every faith that this is going to be one of those incredible and essential JRPG experiences. And you know, I haven't played a new JRPG that I've enjoyed as much as Persona 5 since I played Persona 5. So I'm waiting to see if this game kind of fills that void for me of, you know, because after I completed Persona 5 basically twice, I felt an emptiness. Like, oh, what do I do now? Like, there's no Persona 6. Like, what am I supposed to do now? So hopefully this game will fill that void for me. So yeah, that's what I'm waiting to see. But so far so good with Dragon Quest 11, and that's pretty much it.
Sounds good. Yeah, I have heard from quite a bit of people that Dragon Quest 11 it is a massive game, and you probably will be playing that all the way to Christmas, Thanksgiving, Christmas time.
Probably, so, I believe it, because especially at my pace, because like my pace of playing games has slowed down a lot. So yeah, I'll probably be playing it for a long time.
And one other thing worth noting, and I know both Tony and Tatiana can confirm this, after you finish the main story, which is about 60 hours or so, there's additional 15 to 20 hours of in-game content. So yeah, you're going to be playing that for a while. That's for certain. But
yeah, I mean, the challenge is going to be fitting it in with all the other stuff coming out, because I do eventually want to play Spider-Man. And, you know, there's a lot of other stuff that's coming out in the next few weeks and couple months and stuff. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I totally understand that. Well, yeah, I do have something to say about that. But, yeah, you'll eventually get through that game. So we'll see. Yeah, having to figure out how to play the other games, that's going to be a challenge. But we'll see. Some stuff just might have to wait. So see what happens. As for what I've been playing 3 big games. I guess you can say that they're big because of the status behind them. First and foremost, let's go right to Spider-Man. You know, I was able to review it on the website earlier this week. I gave it a 90 out of 100. I have seen that quite a bit of number of sites, publications have also given the game glowing reviews. So glad to know that that everything that I said about the game, a lot of people also agree that the game is great. Overall, the game is out officially today here for everybody. I'm not going to provide any spoilers on the story. Only thing I will say is that I very much enjoyed the story, and I will talk about it in the future. I want to give people the opportunity to actually finish the game. I know there are some that probably marathon the whole game because they got it last night at midnight, which is fine, but I don't want to spoil anything for those that are still playing through it. So maybe next week or the week after, I'll talk a little bit more extensively about the story and why I enjoyed it. But one thing I will say is the way they set up the world in this particular game, I think that is without a doubt the biggest reason as to why I can't wait to see what they do with it next. Obviously, they announced the DLC that is going to start coming out. The first one drops on October 23rd, featuring the Black Cat. They have 2 additional DLCs coming in November and December as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that content. And one thing that I did say to quite a number of people is that if you were picking up this game, and even if you just decided that you want to pick up the base game, the content in the base game, and in particular the story, is so good that you are going to want the DLC. So that's why I was telling people in my review as well, you might want to, if you can't afford to get the digital deluxe edition now, you might just want to get the game a little bit later, because it is going to be on sale during Black Friday. It is going to be a flash. They are going to have some flash sales for that game towards the end of the year. So I definitely would once again like to tell people, if they haven't picked up Spider-Man yet and you do want to wait, It's totally fine to wait. There's plenty of other games out now that you may want to play. Destiny, I know that DLC came out this week. NBA 2K19 came out this week, as well as there are other games coming. So you don't have to pick up Spider-Man right away. But when you pick it up, I think you will very much like what you get into. So definitely keep that in mind. But moving on from Spider-Man, I briefly got a chance to try out NBA 2K19. I've only really started playing some of this game earlier today. And to me, so far, it feels pretty much like every NBA 2K game. You know, I haven't really noticed a change in the controls, anything of the sorts. I do know that I started the GM mode, and they basically do a continuation of the last story from the 2K18, or they try to connect it, because even if you don't have a file saved, they will give you choice options to make before you actually start, get deeper into the mode. I have to say, so far, I'm not impressed with the GM mode at all. You know, they have this, I guess you could say, it's this guy, it's like a tycoon guy, this rich guy from Texas. I guess it's supposed to be equivalent to Jerry Jones, who was in, with the Dallas Cowboys, that type of personality. But the guy is focused on, you actually picked up an expansion team, and he brings you on as general manager to basically put that team together. So I've only really played a few games up to this point trying to build the team based on a lot of the people who are actually entering the NBA this upcoming season. But it isn't really, it's just not really drawing me in as of yet. With last year when they released 2K18, the whole thing with the GM mode is that you had to deal with the fact that there were people that wanted to buy the team, and then the people who came in and bought the team, they had, like, for example, the GM guy had a son who wanted to take control of everything, and you would, constantly clash heads with him, or you can decide to work with him respectfully, because he was doing stuff with the players that weren't really deemed, in their particular best interests. So it was a little bit more interesting last year. Plus, you also had to deal with the drama of certain people who might want to leave, and based on how you handle the situation with the actual team, then when it comes to free agency, then they may not even re-sign with your team. So it felt a lot more dramatic last season than it does so far with this particular game. I haven't really, like I said, I haven't played too much of it yet, but I'll definitely have a much more thorough explanation next week after I've actually had more time with it. But I can say so far I am not impressed with it. They also have the My Player Career, in which you basically start out playing for a team in China, and then you eventually have an opportunity to come back overseas. Ever since I saw the trailer for that particular mode, I was like, you know what? I am not impressed with this. It just doesn't look appealing at all. And I know my brother started playing it, and he straight up said it's trash so far. So, I don't really know what to make of these 2K games. I feel like, because 2K, they have this basketball game and it is so successful, I believe they've gotten a little complacent. They try other different ideas, and some of that stuff doesn't work out quite the way it needs to work out. But with that said, I'm going to hold a lot of my other thoughts on the game until I've actually spent more time with it, because, who knows, maybe I might start to enjoy the GM mode a little bit more and some of the other things. So I'll definitely speak more on that next week, because I'll have more time to actually dive into it. And finally, the game that I've spent a ton of time playing, I've been playing this game ever since, I want to say, Friday of last week. That is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. And I will have a review for that coming this upcoming Monday. All I want to say about this game is, obviously, if you enjoy the other Tomb Raider games that came before it, then you might enjoy this game. I personally am not really a fan of what they're doing with the story at the moment. Obviously, certain aspects of it are a lot different. But to me, it is pretty much the same game. And it is a continuation of what happened in Rise of the Tomb Raider and the other reboot before that, obviously. So they obviously wanted to finish the story out, which is fine. What the problem is that I'm noticing is that I don't really think there's a lot of hype behind this game, you know, because even around E3 time, didn't really seem like there was a lot of attention given to this particular game. It was on a lot of the other heavy hitters coming out this year. And obviously, you have a game like Spider-Man that came out today. Everybody has been hyped for that game, talking about it. I can't say for sure next week when Tomb Raider comes out, because it does come out approximately 1 day from today, next week. When that comes out, I can't say for sure that I'm going to see the same type of responses online that I'm seeing with Spider-Man, because I mean, Spider-Man has been trending ever since the reviews came out. I see people all over my feed taking pictures of their copies of the game. It's just a lot of general excitement for this game. Whereas with Tomb Raider, I don't think you're going to see a lot of that next week. Understandably so, because Marvel and Spider-Man is just on a whole nother level. But with that said, the game is okay. But like I said, I'll have a lot more in-depth thoughts to say on it next week. All I can say right now is, like I said, if you enjoyed the other 2 games in the series, you may enjoy this game. It just feels like it's more of the same at the moment. But as I said, I'll have more to say next week when the actual embargo is out, and you'll be able to see my detailed review of everything. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that pretty much concludes what we have been playing for this week. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into the topic split. Gary, you wanted to say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I can't wait to hear more of what people think about Shadow of the Tomb Raider. But I did hear some early thoughts on it, and let's just say it's going to be interesting to see what the final scores are.
Well, yeah. Well, one thing I will say, and I think I can say this because we've seen enough videos of it. By far, this is the best-looking Tomb Raider game of every game that they've had in that recent trilogy. Graphically, it just looks fantastic. I know Tatiana said this when she went to a preview event earlier this year. Dana has also said it. It looks fantastic. The other aspects about it, you'll have to get that next week when you read the review. But like I said, people who are fans of Tomb Raider, they definitely should pick up the game, I would say. And they probably are going to pick it up anyway because they want to see how the story concludes. But with all that said, I'll say more on it next week because believe me, there is a lot to talk about with that game. So stay tuned for that. So, let's go ahead and let's jump right into the news topics for this week. First and foremost, the first story, this was a bit came out of nowhere. It's very interesting to hear about this because we do have another colleague who used to be here on staff who was a huge fan of this, but Kingdoms of Amalur. They made news this week when THQ Nordic actually purchased the rights to the series. So I wanted to get your initial thoughts on this, Gary. What does this mean for the series? Do you think that we'll get a remastered version of the original game? And do you think that we'll probably get more sequels in the series over time?
Yeah, I remember when this game came out, and I remember hearing a lot of great things about it, specifically from, David Jagnall, the person you were mentioning. And yeah, like it always intrigued me because it was one of those, westernized RPG games. And it seemed like they had a lot of source material and a lot of story that they wanted to kind of build a series out of. But then, we know it kind of just trailed off after that initial game. So it's good that, now THQ Nordic has acquired this and they can continue to expand on that story. I'm pretty sure they will do some sort of remake or remaster just so people can, get familiar with the first game, and then they'll probably build, a whole series now out of this because I'm sure there's a ton of stories they can tell, based on this game alone. And we've mentioned this before, but I really admire what THQ Nordic is doing. They're restoring the THQ brand to its former glory, buying up a lot of these old IPs and stuff that THQ used to own. And they also have additional IPs as well. So I think, that's definitely a publisher to keep your eye on. I think they're going to become a heavy contender at some point because they just keep buying up IPs and yeah, soon enough they're going to be like a major player in the industry, and it's good to see, you know, the THQ just rise from the ashes like a phoenix or something. It's like they were dead, and now they're, you know, slowly on the way back, just from, you know, THQ Nordic. So is pretty admirable to see. But yeah, I'm excited because I missed out on this game the first time around. But if they put out a remake or remaster, I definitely will buy it this time. So I'm excited for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it goes without saying. I do know a lot of people was excited for this news. I also didn't get a chance to play this game when it came out because there was probably a lot of other things that I was interested in, and I wasn't really heavily into RPGs at that particular time. But I definitely am going to try this out. Very glad to see THQ Nordic doing a lot of great things. You know, of course, they picked up Darksiders, and of course, we're getting a Darksiders 3 later this year, which I'm looking forward to. So them picking up Kingdoms of Amalur, also another great acquisition. I'm curious to see what they actually pick up after this. But I'm looking forward to the game. As I said, I haven't played it. I know David Jagno has spoken highly of the game. So definitely looking forward to checking it out and seeing what they do with this series moving forward.
Indeed. And
so,
just because, you know, this is a mandatory thing to say, I'm just waiting for THQ to buy No Mercy.
Well, that one, you know, with all due respect, I don't think that's going to happen. But hey, you know, I would just rather they buy the whole WWE rights back in the first place, and then we don't have to see 2K put out a horrible WWE game ever again.
Yeah, but, they if they do that, like if anyone ever buys the WWE license, there's one thing that they have to do, and that's not give it to Ukes. Like get another developer to make the game, because Ukes is just, you know, running that series into the ground, doing the same old recycled stuff, and then, you know, breaking the game constantly, like making it worse and worse, basically. So they need to give it to someone else. Either that, or Ukes needs to take a couple years off to reinvent the engine or whatever. So
they won't do that, because if they take the couple of years off, they'll be out of business. So they absolutely are going to have to do something, though. I think they definitely got to do something. You know, I did see that they had the roster reveal, and I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that on WrestleCast later on. But they had the roster reveal for this part 2 of the roster reveal for WWE 2K19 earlier this week. And I looked at the comments, and a majority of the comments were like, yes, another year passes, and it's another WWE game that I won't buy. So I think the fans absolutely are getting tired of this. So we'll see what they do moving forward. But they definitely going to have to do something to keep reinventing this series one way or another. So we'll see what happens. But yes, Kingdoms of Amalur. Glad that the series is able to return. I am a fan of Kurt Schilling. You know, he did used to play on the Boston Red Sox. So obviously, I know he was the one that heavily invested a lot into this project. I know the studio suffered tremendously, and it was very sad to hear when they got shut down. So I'm glad that now THQ Nordic is going to try and do something with the rights. So I'm looking forward to it. We'll see what happens. So let's move on to the next topic. This topic is going to be very interesting because I'm not really sure what you're going to say on this topic. I know that this was a point of news this past week. It happened, I believe it happened on the same day we got some other news that dropped. Well, you know, maybe it was the same day that the Spider-Man reviews came out. But basically, we found out that Henry Cavill, who plays Spider-Man, Superman in the DC movies, he has been cast. He's going to be in the Witcher TV show playing Geralt. So with that said, Gary, I know you are a huge Witcher fan. I'm also a Witcher fan, although I will admit right now, as I have in the past, I never ever got a chance to even get through Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I wanted to get through it, but I just never got a chance to get through it because the game was so massive. But with that said, Gary, what are your thoughts on Henry Cavill being a part of the now upcoming TV show that will be on Netflix in 2020.
Yeah, so let me just say that, you know, when they announced this Witcher TV series from Netflix, I was very excited for it, you know, because this could be like Game of Thrones level kind of thing. Um, but, you know, now that they put Henry Cavill in it, I'm no longer excited. Like, like key word there was, you know, I was excited. I'm not excited now, like, because Henry Cavill playing Geralt, like, how? Like I don't see it. Like it's just a young girl. Like he completely doesn't fit. Like and you know like I know that this TV series is supposed to be more based on the books than the game. So maybe I need to read the books to understand like why he's their pick. But I don't know. Like it's really weird casting to me. I just don't see him as Geralt like in The Witcher, and I guess it doesn't help that you know the work we have to judge him from is the DC films. You know, Batman, Superman, and Justice League, because those are trash films. Like and that doesn't help his case. Like, you know, like we don't even have a really. I mean, Man of Steel was okay. Like, it was good. It was just good. You know, Man of Steel. It was good. But then you went straight into a series of trash films, and it's like, how do you come back from that? Like, how are we supposed to be excited about him being cast as Geralt now? Like, after he's been in a series of trash films, you know. And I'm sure maybe it's not his fault because it's the production team behind those films that he's in. Like it's, you know, he's not choosing the direction, he's just acting in it. But still, I don't know. I would like there's so many other actors I would have picked before Henry Cavill. Like I don't see it personally. Like, you know, now I will spend some time to read the books actually, because I do read a lot of books. I read a lot of fantasy books as well. So I think it's about time I dive into these books and see what they're all about and see if I can, you know, see a reason why they would go with Henry Cavill. Because to me, it just seems like he was interested in the role and he put himself forward and they were like, oh, that's a big name. Like maybe we can draw in some more viewership by taking him. So that's what it looks like to me. It's like it doesn't seem like they were thinking in terms of who would be the best fit. It just seemed like it was more business. It was more of a business decision to have him, you know, and that's why I kind of don't like about it. But what do you think about this casting?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to apologize to our listeners and viewers that are DC fans and are very much enjoying the DC universe films. Not really sure how many of those people actually exist, but I do want to apologize just in case. So I will say this first and foremost. I know that obviously this actor, he really does like video games. There was a story about him actually playing a video game when he had missed a casting call for a film. So he's heavily into video games. I'm guessing that was why they figured he would be a good person to pick for this role. But outside of that, I saw him in the Mission Impossible Fallout movie. I thought the movie was excellent, actually. The role he played, it's a little predictable what happened, but the role he played in it I thought he did a good job in that. We want to talk about the Justice League movie. Well, I was not a fan of Justice League at all, or Suicide Squad. To me, the only DC movie that I have enjoyed was Wonder Woman, and that is because that was the only one that, that movie still had issues, but it's the only one that was actually decent enough where people were talking about it in a positive light. So with that said, I'm curious to see how he handles the role, because again, yeah, he is definitely a lot younger, but with this character, obviously they'll give him makeup. They'll, probably have him grow a beard. Although I don't know about the beard thing, since he still hasn't really recovered from the way he got clowned on that. But they can make the character. They can make someone like him look like Geralt. I do believe. He does have a physique that, I think a lot of women like this guy, and everything like that. So I think it definitely can work. Although I will say this, if you do cast him in this role, I'm very curious to see who you will cast as the antagonist, because I do believe that you need to have a strong antagonist in this particular series. Even though it's a series, I don't really know how many episodes long it's going to be. Of course, the first season was written. Who knows if it'll be greenlit for a second season, but I do think if you're going to have a recognizable, well-known actor such as him playing the protagonist, there has to be also a strong antagonist to go right up against him. So I'm curious to see how they handle that. But overall, I mean, I don't think it could be. I don't think it's going to be horrible. It's right to question it, to ask, how is this going to work out? I mean, I have no idea how it's going to work out, but I will give it the benefit of the doubt, at least until I see how he has looked when they actually transform him into the character. And I'm pretty sure we'll probably see that next year, because last time I checked, they had just completed the finale, the script for the finale. So they have to start shooting it soon, because the show is not coming out till 2020. So once we see images on the set, how he looks, maybe we might be into that idea. But for now, I think it's totally fine for people to question this casting decision. But we'll see what happens.
I just want to know who they're gonna cast as Triss, Marigold, and Yennefer, like the two main females of the series. I'm very interested to see who they're gonna cast as those characters. And well, they probably won't have Ciri in it if they're because I would imagine they're telling like more of an origin kind of story. So it probably won't have characters from the third Witcher game, but yeah, I just want to see what other kind of characters and what other actors and actresses they go with. And yeah, I would love to see some images of, you know, once they start producing this and putting it together and everything. I want to see some images just to see the tone, because the way I was imagining it is like an epic, grand scale Game of Thrones kind of show, but I've got a feeling now that it might turn out to be like really budget and crappy looking, and I hope that's not the case. Like I hope they go all out and make it, you know, high production value and make it something really special, because this something like this could really make Netflix like go to a whole nother level, because they kind of need, you know, one. I mean, they've got a lot of original stuff already that people go to Netflix for, but they haven't got like a Game of Thrones, you know, like they need that one hit, that super hit that kind of transcends everything that, you know, everyone will want to subscribe for. So I hope that they go all out with this series.
Well, I definitely do agree with you there. I know one of the biggest shows on Netflix has been Stranger Things, and I do know that the third season, I believe that is going to be the final season. So you definitely do need to have a lot more shows. There's a lot of other shows returning. You know, your favorite show, Gary, Iron Fist season 2 came out today. So, you know, that gives fans another thing to watch, another excellent show to watch.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited.
But yeah, you know, they still have some of the Netflix Marvel shows. You know, they still have, you know, Daredevil. They still have Punisher, because a lot of those shows, from what I understand, they aren't moving over to the Disney network. They're going to remain on Netflix unless Disney renegotiates and they say, we want these shows on our service. But as of right now, those shows are going to stay on Netflix for right now. We'll see if that changes. But in regards to them needing another show, I agree 100%. You definitely want to have a lot more shows, and of course, The Witcher is a very big deal. So hopefully, the show is successful. Again, we won't know until 2 years from now when it actually debuts, because they have quite a bit of work to do. But to know that the script is done, that's good. Now they can start filming, and then we'll start getting images of the cast and other people that'll be on in the show. So we can look forward to that. One other quick question I wanted to ask you before we move on to the next topic. You mentioned that there are other people that should have been considered for this role. Do you know, would you be able to share some of those names? Because I'm curious as to what your answer would be for that particular question.
You really put me on the spot with that one. I mean, my memory is bad, and I'm bad with names. I mean, come back to me. But is there anyone that you have in mind that you think would be good?
I actually can't really think of anybody off the top of my head at the moment.
I mean, like, since I'm thinking a lot of Game of Thrones in terms of the tone. So, I'm thinking, someone like Jaime Lannister, like he would fit, like, someone like that, like, I guess like somebody who's not too young, but also not too old, and they look a bit rough and tough and manly kind of thing, like someone who's got that look is what I'm imagining for Geralt.
Yeah. No, yeah, I totally understand that. The only reason why I say I can't really think at the moment is just because I don't really I mean, there's a lot of actors and actresses. There's a ton of actresses that would be great for the role of some of the other characters as well. But some of them I don't know the name. They've been in movies that I've enjoyed, but there are some that they're not in a lot of movies. But when they are in a movie, it's a big deal, and I do enjoy it. But in terms of the role of Geralt, it's very hard for me to really pinpoint one particular person, because I just think that the age doesn't really matter so much. If the actor has, is in good shape and has a physique, I think that they could just put makeup on him or whatever and have him look like Geralt, and they don't need to worry about him actually being an older guy, unless they want to actually take that route. But yeah, there's a lot of actors. I have to think about that question, and maybe we can revisit that another time. But I haven't really given much thought to it. Only thing is, I heard that they chose this guy as the casting, and I thought, well, I'm interested to see how that looks. So I guess we'll just have to wait on that. But I can't think of anybody off the top of my head at the moment.
Yeah, like even a dude who played Thor, he would be a good fit for that.
Oh, you're talking of I thought that now he is.
He's probably too expensive now, though. But yeah,
too expensive, and he's probably forever typecasted now as Thor.
Yeah.
Because there's a movie coming out next month that I keep seeing trailers from. Bad Times at the, I think it's Bad Times at the Royale. No, at the El Royale, and he pretty much. I mean, I guess he's supposed to be a bad guy in the film based on the trailer. But I look at this guy and I'm like, yeah, there goes Thor. So he definitely needs to get another role to stand out. That could have worked, but I don't think he's going to do that. I mean, I don't know if he's going to do that. Well, he's definitely not going to do it in this instance, but we'll see. Yeah, I have to think about that a little bit more and do more research to figure out, who else is going to be in this, because there's not a lot of information about what the show is going to entail. So we'll see.
Yeah, like just because I made such a big deal about this, for anyone listening, I am going to think of 5 actors and I'm going to tweet it out. So like after you listen to this, go check my Twitter, like, because I know that there's tons more actors that are better than Henry Cavill for this role. So I'm gonna come up with 5 and I'm gonna tweet it out. So look out.
Just keep in mind. Let's hoping that they will be reasonably priced actors, because I don't really know what the budget was for this particular show, but I would assume they have to spend a lot on special effects, everything else. So if you can come up with some actors who you think they can afford to get, I will be very interested to see that.
Yeah, matter of fact, I might even make this an article, to be honest. I'm going to take it back to the old days of TK, and I'm going to put this in an article. So look out for that, guys. I'm going to come up with, and I'm going to make sure the budget fits too. Like, I'm not going to go with Hollywood A-list. I'm going to think of people who have done sort of TV stuff before as well, or maybe like B-list, Hollywood actors that are affordable. I'm going to come up with a list of people who I think are better than Henry Cavill. So look out for that sometime soon.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds good to me. Yes, definitely look out for that. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. And this topic, obviously, this might get a little controversial because some people have some very mixed thoughts on this game, myself included. But we found out that apparently at Tokyo Game Show, which will be towards the end of this month, we're going to get a stage presentation for Death Stranding. Now, granted, what we saw at E3, I will tell you, I was not impressed with Death Stranding. And, I was like, this is what Kojima has been working on all this time. So I was one of the people that was not sold on that. I'm still very confused because I don't know what the hell I was watching. But Gary, what do you think about this Tokyo Game Show reveal or presentation for this game? And do you think it's going to be a disappointment?
I mean, we've been nothing but disappointed so far by the showings for this game, because either they've left us completely confused or just completely like WTF, like what the hell am I watching? And that was, at E3, what we saw at E3, that was very disappointing. We was like, what the hell are we looking at? It looked like a walk-in simulator. So it's about time that they blow this thing wide open and show us what the hell this game actually is, what you're going to be playing, what you're going to be doing. And, they need to give us that full-length presentation and show us what is Death Stranding. And I guess this might be the best place to do it because Kojima can go out there and he can talk, in his native tongue, and they can have translators and everything. So this might be the best setting to do that in. And hopefully, we'll get to finally see. I'm thinking maybe something like what they did with Cyberpunk, that 40-minute stream to like show you how the game is and everything like that. Like they need to do something like that for Death Stranding so that we can finally fully understand what the hell this game is, because we still don't know. And a lot of people have jumped the gun and gotten hyped for this game. Me, I remain skeptical. I was like, until I see what this actually is, I'm not getting excited. I love Kojima, but I'm not a sheep, so I need to see something that's going to make me think, okay, yeah, this is something worth waiting for. This is something that we need to get. This is something that's worth owning a PS4 for. And I think they definitely need to do this at TGS, especially now that they've hyped it up, kind of like they've put it out there that there's going to be a presentation. They can't let us down again now. Otherwise, it's going to get to the point where it's like, screw this game, like that's coming. Like if they let us down again, then it's going to be screw Death Stranding. You're going to start to see frustrated people like, I don't know what this is. Like you're just confusing me. So I think it's about time we get some solid information about what this game is. And yeah, that's what I think we're going to get.
I agree with pretty much everything you had to say. I don't think anybody should really be overly excited or have high expectations in regards to Death Stranding, because there have been so many presentations we've had for this game, and not one of those has been a gameplay reveal. Everything that I have seen, like it's been a cinematic trailer. And I mean, we can say that the concept looks interesting, but the last reveal that I saw, that literally put me to sleep. And I know when we saw it at E3 live in front of, everybody was there. I mean, there was some people that were generally interested and very intrigued by the trailer. I saw that and I said, what the hell is Kojima working on? Because I still don't have an explanation as to anything, the story, nothing. So this reveal event that's going to happen at TGS, I would keep my expectations low so that if there is a surprise, then then you could be like, okay, this is interesting. One thing that I do think we definitely, absolutely, positively will get is that at the Video Game Award show in December, there definitely will be something for Death Stranding, because we already know that Kojima is very good friends with Jeff Keighley, and every single time that he has a show, this guy is on there in some way, shape, or form. So if there was ever to be any major news, like, I don't know, a release date or something of the sorts, That's probably going to happen at that particular show. But before we even get to that, we need to see some gameplay footage or something. Because what I've seen of the game so far, I am not impressed. If you was to ask me what PlayStation 4 game am I looking forward to now out of everything that I saw after Spider-Man is out and stuff like that, it's Ghost of Tsushima. Because to me, that game it's like something totally different. Now, Last of Us 2, it looks good, but to me, again, that's more of the same. We already saw the violence and all that other stuff in the last game that they did. So to me, Ghost of Tsushima is the game that looks interesting. As far as their exclusives are concerned, with this game, though, I am not impressed with anything I've seen yet. So they need to impress people and also explain what the hell we're actually looking at. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Any additional thoughts on Death Stranding before we move on to the next topic?
I mean, I wish I could have additional thoughts, but I just don't know what it is. So, you know, it's hard to come up with thoughts for something you don't know what the hell it is. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. I just hope we get clarity, you know. And Kojima's going to be comfortable at TGS. It's his home. So, like, this is the perfect place for him to finally just, you know, give a keynote about this game. Just let the world know what your vision is, like, you know. So there's no excuse for them not to do it. I mean, I know PSX is coming in a few months also, but
yeah,
I don't think you should wait that long because people were already disappointed with the E3 thing. Like you said, some people enjoyed it and were still intrigued, but the majority of us, like the super hardcore enthusiasts, we were like, you know, we don't understand what this is, and it doesn't look that great, you know, like in terms of the gameplay we saw. So yeah, I think you shouldn't leave us lingering. You shouldn't leave us hanging any longer. And I think you should just give us what we want at TGS, and then, you know, PSX you can show additional stuff, or, you know, new things can be announced at that point. So.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. I personally think if PSX will probably get a release date for Last of Us Part 2. Because I know Naughty Dog always has like a major emphasis at that particular show. So that's more than likely. But as for Death Stranding, who knows? Because again, you know, the way that Sony set up their E3 conference, and I don't mean to backtrack and go back into the past, but the way they set up the conference where we were there, you know, they had the whole introduction. You know, you had the introduction, the special introduction for Last of Us, and then we went to another area for all the other stuff. It's like they really wanted to emphasize The Last of Us, but prior to that whole event, they're like, there are 4 major games we're going to show at E3 and talk about. And so when I saw Death Stranding, it was like it was pretty much a letdown, disappointment. You know, Ghost of Tsushima looked awesome. Last of Us, yeah, it looks good. Spider-Man looked good, but yeah, I was not sold on Death Stranding. So I'm very curious to see what direction they take this. Obviously, Norman Reedus, who is in the game, he is definitely going to be, you know, get a whole, you know, he's already been the popular character with the other show he's been on, The Walking Dead. Obviously, now he is going to be the main focal character because we heard that Rick Grimes is leaving the show. So I would think that now that you have even more attention on him as an actor, this game is, you know, it was already important for him career-wise. It's going to be a lot more important now because of that. So we'll see how the end result is. I can only hope that the reveal is going to be good. Let's just say this. I hope TGS as a whole is going to be good. And we get a whole bunch of other information, not just with Death Stranding, but other games as well. But
yeah, I'm looking at you, Square Enix.
Uh-oh. What? You talking about Final Fantasy a remake update?
Yep.
Oh, that ain't coming until at least 2024.
That's way too long.
But yeah, we'll see about that. But with Death Stranding, yeah, you know, like I said, no disrespect to Kojima, but we need to get an understanding as to what the hell this game is. You know, it's fine to be weird with some of the themes and stuff like that. It's totally fine. But now, as we get closer to the time when it actually might be coming out, because I'm pretty sure it may be out next year, we got to get an explanation as to what the hell this game is and why we should care about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree. And since you mentioned, Last of Us 2, and in terms of that, the release date for that being announced at PSX, I do have an early prediction of my own for PSX. I don't know if you wanted to turn this into a PSX discussion or if I should hold it, but.
Well, I'll tell you what. You can do that just so long as we also talk about Xbox, because we know the people who are Xbox fans, they're going to be like, hey, we don't want this to turn into a PlayStation show. So go ahead and give your predictions. And I will have some predictions as well after you in regards to some stuff I think is going to happen with Xbox.
Okay, yeah, I apologize, Xbox people, for talking about PlayStation. I know you guys don't like it, but yeah, I'm going to talk about PlayStation for just a second longer. But I think we're going to get a Horizon 2 announcement at PSX.
So you don't think it's too early for them to announce a sequel to that?
No, because Horizon came out the top of last year. And if they announce it, I mean, it doesn't mean it's coming out in 2019. It could be 2020. So
I'll tell you what, that announcement is going to happen at some point in time. I personally think that will be a launch title for PS5, if I had to make a guess, because it feels to me like, the last couple games, Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, and Last of Us, those feel like those would be PlayStation 4 titles. But when I think about next gen, because we already know PS5 is in development, we already know the next Xbox is in development. If I had to make a guess, you need to have a title to launch that system. Why not let it be that title, since it has such an overwhelming amount of support for it? I definitely could see that coming out on next gen. Maybe not this gen, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That's a good guess. My prediction, since I said I was going to make an Xbox prediction, obviously we know Gears of War 5 is coming out next year. I think that's going to be the fall game next year. Halo, I'm guessing that's coming out next year. I have no idea, because they haven't really provided any other details on that as of yet. But if I had to make an Xbox prediction, it is that I want to say before E3 next year, we're finally going to get confirmation of this new Fable game that Playground is working on, because I did see that they conducted an interview this week with IGN in which they talked about Forza Horizon 4, and the guy that they interviewed pretty much said, oh yeah, I'm also working on this other title. So at some point, they are going to talk about that title. I don't know if they're going to wait to E3 next year to talk about that title, but they are going to talk about that because it is in development. There's a reason why they didn't talk about it yet. And obviously, right now, they're focused on Forza because that'll be out next month. So my prediction is, I guess you could say, safe. It's not out of this world. We already know the game is in development. But yeah, that's what my little prediction would be in regards to Microsoft. So we'll see what happens. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that seems plausible. Yeah, not carry on.
Oh no, and as for Sony, as you said, yeah, we'll see about Death Stranding. As I have already mentioned, I'm not really hyped for this game yet. I don't really have a reason to be hyped for it because I haven't really seen anything that I actually think looks intriguing. So we'll see. But Kojima, like you said, the fact that they felt it necessary to reveal, oh yeah, he's going to talk about this at TGS. Well, you have got to deliver. I want to see gameplay. I don't want to see a damn 5, 6, 8 minute trailer, which is all cinematic. I want to see gameplay to know what this shit is going to look like. That's what I want to see. So, and it would be helpful if you actually explain more But gameplay is all I want to see now. Like a little demo as to what you're doing in the game, so on and so forth. And then I will tell you how I feel. But right now, I'm not hyped for this game. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out here that there's some people that will be hyped for it because it's Kojima. That means they don't really care what he does just because it's Kojima. I ain't that kind of person. I got to see something to get me interested in the game, and I haven't seen nothing yet. So we'll see what happens.
Indeed.
And let's move on now to I guess this is going to be the biggest discussion of today's particular show. Obviously, a lot of concerns. We speak about this. I mean, every couple of episodes we talk about EA and our concerns for certain franchises that they're working on. So this is going to be a very interesting discussion because obviously we do know some details. But basically, we do know that Anthem is releasing next year. There was news that there is a demo that is going to be available on February 1st of 2019 across Xbox and PlayStation. And I believe PC also. But the news regarding Anthem is that we have heard is that the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect games are going to be heavily influenced by Anthem. Now, I think we definitely need to discuss this because Bioware with Mass Effect Andromeda, you know, I think we do have at least a few fans that are watching this show that enjoyed Mass Effect Andromeda. And that's totally fine if they enjoyed it. But I think universally, a lot of people would agree it was a very disappointing sequel in more than one way. And the reason why EA wants to take a break from the series, as I said, the series is on ice now, is because of the overall reception was not what they wanted. So now when I think about Mass Effect already heading downhill, Anthem, like I said, I only saw it briefly during E3. I haven't really seen enough of that game to know whether or not it's actually going to be any good. All I know is a lot of people were hyped for that game. And I'm guessing once we actually play the demo, we'll know whether or not this game is something that we actually want to invest our hard-earned money into. But the question that I want to ask you, Gary, as someone who has played Dragon Age, who has played Mass Effect, do you think that this is going to necessarily be a good thing if they are going to decide to make Anthem be the main influence behind these other titles?
No, it's not a good idea. And I'm going to tell you why. I think this is a really bad idea. And that's because a couple of weeks ago, I remember seeing an article of somebody from Bioware. They came out and specifically said Anthem is nothing like Mass Effect, and I guess what they were trying to put forward is, people were expecting, because it's sort of like a similar kind of art design, character design kind of thing. They're thinking maybe it has some sort of influences from the Mass Effect games in terms of the storytelling and decision making and things like that, and how the narrative is approached. But he made a point to specifically say Anthem is not going to be like Mass Effect. So now you're telling us that in the next Dragon Age and the next Mass Effect, you're designing them to have influences of Anthem, something that's nothing like Mass Effect or Dragon Age. So why should we be excited for that, knowing that you're modeling it after something that's nothing like what we fell in love with? Like that logic is just really stupid to me. And you're already being looked at in a negative light after what happened with Andromeda, and I mean, Inquisition, it was a good game, it was decent. It wasn't a bad game, but a lot of people wasn't that high on that game, for Dragon Age standards. Like the best was the first game, Dragon Age Origins. A lot of people didn't like 2. I liked 2. I think it was okay. Inquisition, it was good, but you could sort of feel that EA influence and the kind of change in their approach in Inquisition. And now it's just getting out of control, with each new game that they put out. And that doesn't give me any confidence. And it actually it's actually saddening because I fell in love with these two IPs, Dragon Age and Mass Effect. Like I loved them. They were among my two favorite IPs that came out of that last generation we had, you know. And now they're just running them into the ground, and it seems like EA is just inserting their influence, and they're just, you know, I don't know, like Anthem is an online game, and I'm guessing that it's going to be structured in a way that is designed to keep you playing again and again with, you know, with friends or wherever, and it's gonna try and steer you in the way of buying DLC and you know, cosmetics and, you know, things of that nature, you know, loot boxes and stuff like that. Like that, they're not gonna call it loot box because now it has a negative stigma, but they're gonna have microtransactions in some way. Like it's inevitable. So because it's that style of game, it now worries me that that's what they want to model these two games off, because they are not online games, you know, like we know them to be single player narrative driven games. So why are you modeling those games on your big, you know, kind of blockbuster online game that you're trying to push? Like, why are you changing them that much to where, you know, they're supposed to resemble Anthem? Like it makes no sense to me. Like, because those games are supposed to be two completely different things. Like they're not supposed to be modeled after your online MMO kind of game, you know, like so yeah, it's very worrying, and we were already worried about these games after Andromeda. So this doesn't do anything to help them. I think they should, at this point, until they announce Dragon Age and Mass Effect, they shouldn't even talk about it. Like they shouldn't say anything about these games until we see footage of it or a trailer or something, because they're not doing themselves any favors right now. And we're already kind of writing BioWare off a little bit. So they should just keep their mouth shut, keep their heads down, try and make these games as good as possible. I understand that EA is the parent company and EA has their own list of expectations and things that they expect from BioWare or that they want from BioWare. And I understand that, you know, affects the type of games that BioWare can make, and it's unfortunate. But yeah, I just feel like coming out and saying these things, like, even, you know, I mentioned that he said Anthem is nothing like Mass Effect or whatever. Like at this point, just don't talk. Like don't say anything. Like just because you're just annoying us with every interview at this point. So yeah, this does nothing to make me confident in BioWare right now. This isn't the same BioWare that, you know, made the classic games that we loved. You know, this is a different BioWare at this point. So what's your thoughts?
So I agree with a lot of what you say. First, I'm gonna start with a side note. Stuff like this is why I wanted Microsoft to make an offer and buy BioWare when they had an opportunity to purchase them. But instead, they let EA come in and take that. And I still think that that is one L that they will never recover from in terms of losing out on getting that. Because I recall when I picked up Mass Effect for the very first time on Xbox 360, the game was absolutely fantastic. And I enjoyed the sequel a lot more. But just to know that Microsoft had an opportunity to, at one point, purchase BioWare is very, very disappointing. Because if they did purchase that, there's no telling where things would be right now. And they would have another exclusive title on their platform as big as Mass Effect. That would have been a major, major deal for them. So I did want to add that little side note in there. Now, in regards to Anthem, we already know that the main reason why Anthem was created is because EA basically wants their own version of Destiny. And that is the comparison that people have kept talking about with this game. This is like Destiny, but it's a totally different experience. So I know Destiny right now, they just released a new DLC. It does change the experience. I've heard a lot of people talking positively about that. But even before this DLC came out, Destiny 2 has been getting hammered because of the content, because the game didn't feel like it was a complete package, and even more so with the first title. Obviously, the sequel is improved upon because they learned from the first time, But if I was EA, I would not try to copy a competitor to a T. I would try to make something that is original. And also, when you have a studio like Bioware, you need to let them play to their strengths. Their strengths is in telling stories with compelling characters. So if you make this a service-based game where you aren't really focused on story, that right there is a problem. That is a significant issue. So games like Mass Effect were all about stories, building relationships, and then you make certain choices that impact you later. You know, very, very severe consequences for some of the actions that you do. So Mass Effect 2, still to this very day, I enjoyed that game more than Mass Effect 3. Mass Effect 3, obviously, yeah, but the suicide mission at the end of Mass Effect 2, the way that they handled that game, that was just very well done from top to bottom. And the fact that every single character served a purpose in that particular mission, that tells me that they actually thought this process through. I don't really know how much they've thought through Anthem, because EA, as you said, they already have their goals of what they want this game to be. And yes, we want microtransactions. I saw that they already have come out and say the microtransactions will be cosmetic in the game, and that all of the story content will be in there, so you won't have to pay extra for that, which is all great. All this sounds great. However, we have to understand that EA, reputation that they have, and the fact that they are the publisher, they definitely will have some got you moments in this. And I'm curious to see what that actually is. Now, we won't really know anything until we actually get our hands on the demo in February. We may probably get some more footage this year, whether it's at PSX or the Video Game Awards show or any of these other shows. We'll probably get some more footage and more details, obviously. But I think it makes sense to be very skeptical of what they can do if they decide that they want this to be the model in which they create the next Mass Effect and Dragon Age from. As I know I've said on this show multiple times, if Anthem is a flop, there will not be another Mass Effect or Dragon Age. So they really do need to focus on making this game as good as it possibly can be. And I don't think that they should be out here telling people what it is and what it isn't. Let the game speak for itself. If you're confident in the product and you're making something that you think is going to be awesome, just create the game, put it out there. If you want to release gameplay footage, yeah, they definitely need to be doing a lot of that, because there's a lot of titles coming out early next year that it's going to make it for a very crowded release schedule. We already know this because we saw some of those titles that were announced at Gamescom that have release dates that are at the beginning of next year. So, Anthem, it had a lot of buzz during E3, so I think it's still going to be a fine game in terms of how it stands among other titles. But with that said, we still need to see more of the game, what it has to offer, and really be convinced of what the experience is. I mean, we can say it looks great graphically, it looks awesome, but the story content, none of that information is out there. So we definitely need to get some more information. And then once we see how that is, we can see whether or not that's a good thing. But just like you said, they shouldn't be talking about Mass Effect or Dragon Age, because we don't know what the hell Anthem is and what it has to offer yet. So I wouldn't have made that statement if I was him. I would have just said, we're working on the game. It's going to be a different type of experience, and we will keep you posted on updates. Don't make that comparison to Mass Effect and Dragon Age, especially when we know Andromeda was not received well by everybody. So, but it is what it is. Like I said, it's a major deal for this game, so hopefully it is successful, because I don't want anything bad to happen to BioWare, but it is what it is. We know EA's track record of having to close down all these studios, so hopefully that doesn't happen, but we'll have to see what happens.
Indeed. And I also want to go on and say that I hope in all of these games, in all three of these games, I hope that the actual mission and quest structure is more has more depth to it than Andromeda did, because the thing is, in Andromeda, like, it's easy to say, oh, this game is stuffed full of content, full of missions and story and everything like that. But the thing is, with Andromeda, a lot of like it had a ton of quests and missions for you to do, but none of them, like a lot of them, I would say, you know, like 8% of them were junk missions. Like they were just irrelevant fetch quests. And some, like the Inquisition was a bit like that too. Dragon Age Inquisition, like there was some missions that were completely irrelevant and didn't add nothing to the game, and Andromeda was full of that. And you know, my thing is, like, with the first 3 Mass Effect games and Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, it's like every mission, every quest meant something. It, you know, it added to the story, like the world building and the story, and you know, the world that they created and everything. Like there was something new to learn with every quest that you did, every side quest, you know. So I don't want just a bunch of filler story content. Like, make it mean something, because that's why we fell in love with these games. Like everything meant something. So don't just give us content to tick a bunch of boxes and say, yeah, we've created additional content. Like, you know, I don't want a bunch of promises, you know, from them. I want actual, you know, content that's substantial and leaves me fulfilled. So yeah, don't just come out here and say a bunch of buzzwords, a bunch of keywords, and be like, yeah, we've got 200 quest lines and missions in this game, and yada yada yada. Like, I want it to actually mean something. It has to actually, you know, I want it to be a good story. I want it to grip me, to hold my attention. And I don't want to, like, just be flying around the galaxy just doing fetch quests like I did in Andromeda. Because eventually in Andromeda, I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm getting bored of this. Like, let me just finish this game, man. Let me just try and rush to the end. And then they made it hard to even do that. Like, you couldn't even, like, rush through the story. There were parts where you had to do like other stuff, and it was like, it just got frustrating eventually. So they need to really work on that and make sure these new games are nothing like that. Like, I don't want a bunch of fluff quests. Give me substance. Because, you know, quality over quantity at the end of the day.
So I hear exactly what you're saying, and I hate to tell you this, but I believe that there's definitely going to be some filler in there as well. So, hey, let's just hope that they get this thing right. They have a lot to live up to. The expectations are high, and as I said, with Bio, you know, because even though this game is being made by the team that actually worked on the original Mass Effect trilogy, and they had nothing to do with Andromeda, everyone looking at Bioware, they're not thinking about the multiple teams. They're thinking, well, Bioware, the last game they made was trash. They didn't like Andromeda, so they really do have to deliver with this title. That's not an exaggeration. They know this is an important game to deliver on, so I am hopeful that they give us what we want. Again, like I say, if it doesn't have a compelling storyline, compelling characters, and decisions that matter, so on and so forth, then to me, you have taken out pretty much almost everything that BioWare does a good job on. So we have to see more, get more insight. I understand they don't want to reveal too much about the game because they don't want to give you the whole game away, but they damn sure got to show more than what they showed already. I mean, so yeah, they got to do better than what we have already seen. So I'm hoping that we do get some more information in due time. But for right now, I have to say I am curious to see more on the game. But again, I'm not someone who is hyped. There are only a certain amount of games I'm hyped for. This is not one of them. I'm looking forward to seeing what it brings to the table, what's different about it. Because when I played Destiny for the first time, this is something where when the game first came out, yeah, it was hot. A lot of people liked it. But once you got to the point where there was no content and it was just a lot of grinding, that was when I said, all right, I'm out. So I don't want this game to be like that. You know, obviously I wanted to offer more. And as you said, with the missions, I want it to be valuable missions, not stuff that's just thrown in there just for the sake of being thrown in there. But I do believe that there is going to be some filler in there too, because I don't know, man. This is EA. I got to be a little skeptical because EA is in charge of this. And even though, like I said, they said all those microtransactions are cosmetic, there's no way that there's going to be something in this game that is going to be a gotcha moment. And I can't wait to see what that is, because I will be laughing and I will be talking about that on this very show when that happens, because it is going to happen. You know how EA operates. But we'll see. As I said, I'm just hoping that Anthem is actually good. And if we get another Mass Effect in Dragon Age, yeah, I hope those are good as well. But we'll see, since they say Anthem is going to be what determines all of this stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like for EA and Bioware, a lot is riding on Anthem. And just to, since we are talking about EA, I want to throw in the Battlefield thing, because, they've been worried about those pre-orders, man. The pre-orders haven't been looking that great for Battlefield 5. So,
well, hold on. Now, are you planning to try out the beta? Because there's an open beta that I believe is going on right now. I need to try that beta out, and then I can talk about that next week. But yeah,
I might give it a try. Do you have to pre-order to get into the beta, or
no,
download it?
Okay. No, I believe it is totally open now, because when I signed on to Xbox earlier, it was an option to download it. So I'm assuming that that's across all platforms. It's open now until I think the next week, early next week.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, because my logic is if EA, if the game is struggling so bad on the sales, then it will be very stupid of them to make this a closed beta when you know that you want to get more people interested in the game. Yeah, that'll be a dumb decision. However, I will say the timing of this beta very interesting, because on Monday, the Black Ops Blackout, aka Battle Royale beta, also is going to be out, available for people to try. So this is they're cutting it close with this beta thing here. But
they're worried. Yeah, like EA, like I think they've been really worried since that PR disaster last year with Battlefront. So they've been trying to change their whole methods, giving free content with their games and everything like that. But with the pre-order sales being low for Battlefield, and this is like one of their biggest IPs, I think they're worried. And now it's putting additional pressure on both Battlefield 5 and Anthem, because they want both these games to be successful, to keep them being that top company kind of thing. And they're already losing the NBA battle, it seems. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the NBA Live. You can fill me in on that, but yeah, like I guess they feel like they're kind of struggling to win back gamer trust a little bit, and I'm sure that's got them quite worried.
Well, okay, so I'll say a few things. First, in regards to NBA Live, I did play NBA Live briefly at E3 last year. I'm going to say earlier this year. The game is okay. The street stuff and the team stuff, a lot of that reminded me of NBA Street, which made me question again, why the hell didn't they just bring that franchise back? But the game is okay. But again, when you're going up against a series like NBA 2K, everyone's naturally going to gravitate towards the NBA 2K, because there've been quite some. I mean, they are the top series. There's no doubt about that. Every single year they release a game where it looks great. There may be some new features in there, and there may not be some things that pretty much just like it's just a roster update pretty much every single year. But for the most part, because of the reputation they have, because that they have been out for a while, and most years when EA didn't even have an NBA game to compete against it, they are the number one, and they will be number one for quite a while. But I don't really know too much about NBA Live, because I haven't really played the final build of the game. I do know some of the reviews are still somewhat okay. It's not going to ever be more than NBA 2K, in my personal opinion, until they do a lot of different stuff to really change up a lot of different experiences. But I will say the street stuff in the team mode, all of that stuff looks great in the game. So, you know, if they stay on that path, eventually they will get on the same level of NBA 2K, but they are not there right now. As for Battlefield 5, you know, when I saw the trailer for Battlefield 5, I just was not interested in it. It has nothing to do with the fact that the females are in the game, and maybe somebody can make a point and say that they think that's why the sales are low, but I don't really think that's really all the whole big thing there. I think it's because people are getting tired of Battlefield. You know, like I said, you know, if they still had another series to go to in between this, because I mean, it feels like we just got Battlefield 1. You know, so if you had another series in between Battlefield, like say a Battlefield Bad Company, maybe that would have been something people would have enjoyed more. But I just think that they're getting fatigued because they look at Battlefield 5 and they're like, you know, this looks a lot like Battlefield 1, but it's female characters in it, and maybe it's a few things that are different, but it still feels like it's the same experience. And I think that is why people saw this game and they're like, you know what, I'm just not completely sold. So I think them releasing the beta is great to get people interested in it. But we'll see about that. And in regards to what you said about this being a big deal along with Anthem, I personally think that Anthem won't have this issue because it is a new game. It is something that it could be a different experience. So I don't think that's going to have an issue with pre-order sales. But then again, I mean, we'll see, because again, they have a couple of months to really show us more on what Anthem has to offer. And I know that they had a spread out in Game Informer magazine, which is great, but I still need to see more. And I need to get like there need to be like a dev series talking about the game behind the scenes, all of that stuff. I got to see more on this game to really get invested into it. But because it is a new IP, I think it's still going to get a lot of people that are interested in pre-orders and will pick up the game more so than Battlefield, because Battlefield 5 does not look that different from Battlefield 1.
Yeah.
And you know, I think Max Muller could confirm this, because he did see both of these games and was not impressed at all. So I guess that's what I would say it is. I don't really think it has anything to do with the females in the game. I think it's good to have the females in the game to maybe show a different perspective. But obviously, you know, you got to make things different beyond just that. And then when it looks and it feels exactly like the last Battlefield game, then I can see why people are like, you know what, I'm not interested in that. There's too many other games coming out this year that I want instead. So that right there is what happens. But
yeah, I also just think like this whole military shooter hype thing is getting old. Like people, like you have games like Overwatch and Fortnite and PUBG and stuff like that are just a little more fun in their approach. Whereas, you know, Battlefield, Call of Duty, it's like they're still recycling that same kind of hardcore military kind of, you know, shooter thing. And it's like people have kind of moved on from that. I mean, not all the way, because people still buy them, but people want something different sometimes. Like these games come out like every year or every other year or whatever, and it just, like you said, it feels too soon. Like it feels like we just got Battlefield 1. And I think they should just change the approach. Like they should have did Battlefield Bad Company and did something a bit more lighthearted. And I understand the reason why they're both doing Battle Royale, because that's their way of trying something new with, you know, that fits in line with what people are playing right now. But at the same time, like I think the whole approach and presentation of the game could also be different, because it looks the same, you know. And you know, if they would have did Bad Company, they would have had the chance to do something a bit more light-hearted, a bit more different. I respect what they did with Battlefield Hardline, because that was something a bit different.
Yeah, I did enjoy that too, actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So
the TV style approach.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Yeah, that was actually really good. That was probably kind of underrated, to be honest with you. I know the online in that wasn't as good as like usual Battlefield, but the actual story mode and everything, like that was really good, like the way they approached that. So they should have tried something completely different this year, to be honest, I think. But yeah, I mean, hey, we'll see what happens. They do have stiff competition because, you know, Red Dead is coming out, Call of Duty, of course, and people are still playing Fortnite and other games. So, you know, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. I was just going to add that, you know, what they should have done with Battlefield 5, because it does feel a lot like Battlefield 1 based on how it looks. It feels to me like Battlefield 5, this should have been DLC for Battlefield 1. Instead of you making this a Battlefield 5 game, make it additional DLC, additional stories. That would have made more sense, and drop the price lower, you know, below 60. And I think that would have went over well. But of course, you know, because EA wants to have a major title every fall season, they constantly put themselves in these situations. As I said, in regards to Anthem, I don't really think Anthem is going to have that issue because it is a new IP. People are interested in it. But again, it all depends on how they execute and they handle everything behind it, because it's coming out in February. As I already mentioned, there's other games that are coming out. But they do have enough time to really advertise this game more, show us more of the game, and really convince people that they should pick it up. So hopefully they do that, because as I said, I do not want anything bad to happen to Bioware. And we already know EA's track record with these studios. I still am very angry over what happened with Visceral, because I wanted to see what they were going to do with this Star Wars game. And that's what I'm saying about them making these decisions. So hopefully nothing bad happens with Anthem. As for Battlefield 5, it's good that they're having a beta now, because you can get more people interested in the game, and they may be more likely to pick it up in November when it won't really have too much other competition. But we'll see. The ball is in their court, so hopefully they can deliver. Yeah. So
yeah.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up this topic?
No, that's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, so I hope that EA, if they listen to this podcast later, I hope that they heed this advice and they do not blacklist Koalition from talking about EA stuff ever again, because everything is a negative. This is just the honest feedback. So hopefully they will take this information and they will actually listen.
Yeah, it's just constructive criticism. That's all. We love Mass Effect and Dragon Age. We just, you know, we want the best for them.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So we shall see what happens. But I believe that does conclude our show for tonight. Unless, of course, there's any other topics you want to mention.
Nothing comes to mind right now.
Yeah, you know, it hasn't really been too much news this week compared to the previous week, but we had a whole bunch of news that dropped. So, yeah, I mean, I think at this point now everybody is either playing Spider-Man or NBA 2K, so they don't really, and they're gearing up for next week. A couple other games coming out later this month in October. So, but we're definitely going to have a lot to say about a lot of these other games. So stay tuned for that on future episodes. But that does conclude our show for this evening. So I want to give a shout out to all of the Patreon supporters, everybody that's either watching the show live or listen to it later on the download. We appreciate your continued support. I want to give a shout out to M. Collins, because he did win our Spider-Man giveaway and he does have the game. So I hope that he enjoys it. He will be listening to this download later. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on the show. And we are going to be announcing another giveaway next week, so stay tuned for that. Not really sure yet which game, because there are a ton of games coming out in October, so it's going to be hard to choose just one, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, that concludes my shout-outs for today. And Gary, the floor is now yours for shout-outs.
Yep, so once again, big shout-outs to our Patreon supporters, M. Collins, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Miguel, and Antonio Rogers. And congrats again to Marcus sorry, M. Collins for winning Spider-Man. Definitely let us know what you think of the game and everything, because I'm sure you're enjoying it right now. And big shouts to everyone who joined us in the chat today. I saw Mills in there, Ruthless is in there being crazy as usual. So yeah, big shouts to everyone who watches live and supports the show constantly. So and also big shouts to the Koalition team. I know there's a lot of content, incoming, and there's some stuff that's already on the site. I know Rich just wrote an article about Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So is that the name of the game? I get them mixed up now.
Oh yeah, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I will make it. I will admit right now that probably is the game I'm looking forward to next before we get to Red Dead. But that game is absolutely fantastic. If you want to learn more about the game, definitely check out my article on the website. We'll have a link to that as well. Also, I do want to give a shout out to Dana, because she wrote her review for Iron Fist Season 2. It's on Netflix now, but if you want to get an idea of how the show is before you actually watch it, definitely check out her review on the website, as well as the editorial that I also did on Iron Fist Season 2. I can tell you right now, though, the show is definitely better than last season. Shockingly better, actually. So definitely check those out. But no, go ahead, Gary.
Yep, and there's still more reviews incoming as well, so be on the lookout for those. And yeah, big shouts to the entire team, and I want to give a shout to Throwdown as well for getting to their 200th episode. They had Mr. Tor Davis on there, they had Hip Hop Gamer on there, and they had Andre Tipton. So that was a very entertaining show as well. So definitely check that out after you check this one out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, we definitely want to give a shout out to the Throwdown team, doing big things over there. I actually will be on Throwdown Your Questions Sunday night for their 200th episode also. So stay tuned for that. You guys always ask them excellent questions, so I'm curious to know. I can't wait to be a part of that, to see what questions are asked, especially with Spider-Man just coming out and all this other stuff going on. So definitely look for that soon. Yeah,
Throwdown, you guys got to start recording more early, man, so I can be on, because I like being on.
But yeah. Well, hey, you have to talk to them about that. Like I said, see what they have to say about that.
Yeah, no, I don't want to mess up their schedule and everything, but yeah, one of these days I'm gonna pop up on one of them shows for sure. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my shout-outs though.
Absolutely. Yes. So as I said, continue to stay tuned to the website. We do have a lot of content coming next week. Tomb Raider review will be out on Monday, as well as a lot of different things and a couple of surprises. So stay tuned. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. And we will talk to you all next week.
Peace.